Okay.
Welcome to The Leaders Who Care, a podcast powered by Dynamis Group. We are here to give the stage and support to those committed to create a positive and lasting impact, way beyond the profits and margins, the leaders of the world who care for others and serve a bigger purpose. Join us on the journey of creating a better, more caring world. And now to your host, Marian Temelkov.
Hello, everyone. I'm very excited today to welcome a special guest, someone that has done exceptional remarks in fields of marketing and really helping organizations with the innovation and the future of work and really truly caring about leaders. He's also known as Scott the Boom. Scott Morrison is joining us today. I'm super privileged. As you guys know, we bring together leaders who care. And today I have the honor for welcoming Scott on today's episode. Scott, thank you for making the time and joining us today.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me, Marian. Nice to meet you properly, and nice to see or be amongst the audience today.
Lovely. Thank you so much indeed, Scott. I would love to hear your story, and especially for people that don't know you, it's if you share a brief introduction of your journey, of how did you start it out, and what are you doing today? What are the kind of things and how you serve? That will be great.
Great, no problem. I love doing things in threes. I'm a real fan of the power of three, so I'll put my career in three really easy, memorable bits. I started in advertising. So when I first moved to London, I joined Saatchi Saatchi, the advertising agency, and I ran lots of different businesses there: Toyota, Monster, the Army, all sorts of things. And I stayed there for a good few years. And I was headhunted to go and run the Nike business at Wieden & Kennedy, which is another big agency. And I stayed there for only 2 years. I stayed at Saatchi for 6 years, and I had a massive learning while I was there, which was that culture. When you've got a very, very different culture in a different organization, you can't just go in with the expectations of the previous culture that you had and just implant that into the new culture. You've really got to understand and learn the new culture that you go into. I kind of learned that, some would say the hard way. But what it did prompt me to do is actually leave advertising altogether and move to the second part of my career, which was going client side. And so I decided that I really wanted to understand business. I moved to become a marketing director. So I became marketing director for Levi's. Then I moved on to gaming and became marketing director for Activision, the computer games business, Call of Duty. And then I moved from there and I became the marketing commercial director for Diesel, which is the denim and the fashion brand. Then I was there for 6.5 years before the third phase of my career. And I decided, after doing agency and client and understanding quite a lot about creativity and commerciality and how the two things came together, I decided to launch my own business. And I wanted to create something that would really be about impact. The thing for me, whatever business you're in, when you're a leader, the thing that you want to create is impact. It's not just about change and transformation and those things, but really positive impact. And so the Boom was born out of that. And we unblock, unlock, unleash impact, whether that's creatively, commercially, or culturally, in people, teams, and businesses. And I work with global brands, global agencies, with people all over the world. Brilliant people like you and Stoyan and lots of different people, and I've been very privileged to create something that I'm really passionate about and I love, and it inspires me every day, and I get to travel the world and meet brilliant people.
It sounds so well. First of all, the names you mentioned, the organizations, it's some of them are very well-known brands, and a lot of people, especially that are starting out and maybe considering career in marketing. Probably would want to ask you a few questions. So, if you kind of, because you've reached to a point where you're really passionate about what you do. And I think that's ultimately a great mission for everyone, to find their passion, to find something that really inspires them and gives them energy. Of course, you got to try many different things to find that, like you have done quite a lot. But if you really tell us, did you follow any pattern? What were the ropes? How did you get into marketing? Just if somebody is saying, hey, I don't know what to do with my life. I'm I hear a lot of, sounds super exciting, story and so forth, but a lot of people don't hear the hardship moments and so forth. So what are the kind of critical moments that shaped you, that opened your eyes in order to arrive where you are?
It's a great question. I think when I look back, I often talk about having a red thread through my career. But when I started out, I always, and I think this is much more traditional now than it was when I started out, I always wanted to have a fairly modular career. I never saw myself just doing one thing for the whole of my life. And I know that lots of young people now coming into industry and into business probably have a very, very similar mindset. They don't just see themselves sitting at one company for the rest of their lives. What they want to do is, and what I wanted to do very much, was to grow and learn lots of different things that I could piece together. So I have a real philosophy in life, which is about joining the dots in new and interesting ways. And in order to do that, you've got to create a lot of dots, right? So I really wanted my career to be lots of different sets of experience so that I could learn from that. And there's things that I knew that I suddenly was good at, my strengths, I really focused on, and I continue to focus on. And the things that I'm not so good at, I don't do. And if I can't do them, I find somebody who can do them really, really well, and we partner up on things. And so I think if you're starting your career now, I'd certainly think about, okay, what does a modular career look like for you? What are all the different components and different things that you want to get from a career, the things you want to learn? And then what are your experiments? Go and test them. You don't have to be a business for any longer than 6 months, 12 months if you don't want to be, but be really clear what you're trying to learn, what you want to focus on, and ultimately what you want to end up doing is finding your strengths. What are you really good at? And once you understand what you're really good at, you leverage that as much as you can, do as much of that as you can in what you do, and you'll suddenly find that whatever it is that you're doing, you're delivering great value, great work, but also it'd be stuff that you love doing. But really don't be afraid to test and learn. And the other thing I'd say is be really kind of fastidious about the culture that you join, wherever you join. I look back at all the businesses I worked at, and even the ones that for instance, my time at Widens wasn't particularly brilliant. But what I did know is in each case, I went into a business that had a culture that would help me as a person thrive. So Saatchi's was about nothing is impossible. Diesel was about only the brave and for successful living. Levi's is about being pioneering and being original. And all of those things are things that I wanted to be in my career, the things that I wanted to learn how to do really effectively. Ultimately, they all make up the thing that helps you create impact. So that's thankfully the red thread of all those things, all those cultural influences on me has helped me create what I want to do. And it just so happens that I found that one of my strengths is thinking through things differently and synthesizing that thinking to be able to create stuff for my clients.
Definitely, you said it very well. Go out and try things. And you're right, sometimes it's not always possible to do that and learn it only in one organization. In some cases, it's possible, in that sense. And I've seen people that do extraordinarily well, being 15, 20 years in even more in the same organization, but not doing the same things. They're doing many different things. So you're absolutely right in saying there's different ways of approaching it, but what is the essence is make sure you try out things with the idea that you discover yourself of the things you like doing and the things that you don't like doing, what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, so that you can arrive at ultimately as you say, the boom. It's not what it means, that you find your passion.
It's kind of like the reason that the brand name came about. It's interesting because when you spent a long time working in other brands, when you come to do your own, there's a phrase in English, it's probably universal, but it says something like a joiner, so someone who makes wood, a joiner's cupboards are always the worst, they're always broken.
Oh, I heard of that.
Yeah, or dentist always has bad teeth or whatever, I don't know. But the point being that, when I left all the brand work and I started my own brand, I went about it all the wrong way. I didn't actually consider it as a brand at first, and I went into it thinking, I'll be very functional so people know exactly what I do and everything else, which is, I think, what a lot of people fall into that trap. So they call themselves John Smith Marketing or Steve Briggs Consulting or something, and that what we're trying to do is you're trying to get a foothold in the marketplace, because then people know who you are, because your name is very, usually you've left a big business so people know who you are and they know exactly what you do, which is kind of what you're told to do. The reality is that you've got to actually do something very different when you create your own business. And for me anyway, my view is you've got to create something, if you're going to go into the world I'm going into, that emotionally connects with people. So the Boom as a business was always a feeling. It's not it's not just a brand and a word. And I often say to my clients before, because people say, well, why do you call it the Boom? I say, well, what's the word? What one word would you use when you've done something incredible and something's gone really well and you're all together as a team, and somebody goes, we've just hit that target? What's the word that comes into your mind? And they go, boom. And exactly. So that's what I want you to feel. That's what, when we've done our work together and we've delivered the stuff, that's how I want you to feel. That's what I want you to say. And so my aim is, and it's happening, quite often people say, oh, Scott, we need the boom guy. Can you come and bring some boom to the business? And that's what I want. I wanted people to really link what I do with that emotional feeling for the brand, and for the outputs that we create. And therefore it's all about impact.
No, I love it. And thank you for doing what you're doing, Scott, in that sense. And what role care played in your life, in your success?
Massive. From people caring deeply in businesses that I've worked in. At Saatchi's, I had in my first few years of working in London, I had some real mental health issues because it was just such an enormous switch. And I had a wonderful HR lady called Kate Morris, who I still stay in touch with infrequently, but I still let her know what she did. And she helped me massively with some of the mental health issues that I had in my early years here in London. And I think it wasn't for her, I would have probably left London full stop.
Wow.
And so at one level, there is that level of care that I've seen from leadership and from leaders. And I've been very privileged, I think, to work with both. I've worked with some horrible leaders, actually. And I think when you work with horrible leaders, you learn how not to lead. Yeah, you learn how not to lead. But I like to think that I've had a privilege of working with some fantastic leaders. And when I think about, I was thinking yesterday, what is it about them that makes them really fantastic? And I think there are two or three things that I think are really powerful. The first thing, and I know this sounds people often use this, but I think that the ability to be really vulnerable as a leader is a real show of care. And I think even right now I'm working with lots of different leaders as they go through this kind of lockdown shift and how we're going to work and everything else. And I really get a sense that those leaders that care are really showing the vulnerability to the business and allowing the business to show their vulnerability back. And as a result, they're having these really rich, deep conversations, which is the second thing that I think leaders who care do, is they open up the business and their teams to have rich conversations. And rich conversations are ones where people are actively listening so they're heard. But the conversation that takes place comes from a point of, how can I help you? What do you need? What is the pain you're feeling? How can we make this work better? How can we deliver what you need? And get to a win-win for the business and indeed for the individual. And I always say that, great conversations lead to great possibilities, and those great possibilities lead to great results. And so caring about people at that very level helps you ultimately deliver your business results. And I think what I'm learning more and more about leadership, I've been doing a lot of reading Michael Singer and a few other authors who are talking much more about the presence, being much more present, and the power of now. And the ability as leaders to almost like surrender a little bit to what is happening, rather than trying to take control of everything, trying to take unconscious control of the past and unconscious control of the future. which just plays into ego, which then obviously when you start to think about ego, ego is there to protect you, but is also a deadly weapon in many cases and the downfall for so many people. But as a leader, being able to step back, surrender some things, relinquish a bit of control, allow your people to feel, if you've got great strengths, play to those. Don't try and be a superhero leader and do everything. So just surrender, relax, focus on what's happening right now, connect with your people, open great conversations and being vulnerable, I think really show that kind of caring leadership right now is what's helping shape the future that people want to create.
Well, I of course share a lot of the everything you've said. It's absolutely, and it's not easy sometimes, especially people that's building their own businesses. They want to hold so tight. Maybe their savings is on the line, their family livelihood is on the line, and that is true. And I guess it starts with being clear of what you want. How do you want to live your life? Do you want to have free time? Do you want to have more time with the family? Do you want to have more abundance financially? And you're right, it starts with being vulnerable, being open, clear about your strengths and weaknesses. Because if you build that culture of transparency and allowing people to, by being that, allowing them to be themselves, providing the context, the culture, the environment, so they don't have to wear masks. Yeah. That's the first step, as you said. And then after that, just empower, give them the chance to step up and do things that they love to do, and let go gradually. Maybe sometimes, I guess it's not an easy one when you say leadership doesn't work for everybody, but you got to tailor. And you said something very interesting, being caring and being vulnerable, and also open up. Opening up means really getting to know your people well enough, not just be talking about work, but be interested in their life, their family, because these all factors. We're all human beings. How does that affect? And start to see things that they may not see, but you can help them with, and help them with anyway, without them waiting to tell you. And provide, these are a few things that I'm sure if it's kind of that are being implemented, because it's not one thing that makes it great. It's the natural curiosity against many things, as you mentioned, that has been a really combination of things consistently. Consistency, I heard many times, beats intensity, because some people want to do it once. Let's go on the leadership, on a team retreat, and great, we are all good. But, and that's needed. But if it's once a year, what makes the difference is every day. What makes you fit is not going to the gym for 9 hours in one day. What makes you fit is exactly, since you love taking care of your health. And that's another thing we're going to talk about. How do you take care of yourself to get your optimal? Is going to the gym every day for 20 minutes or 30 minutes that makes you fit.
Exactly. Well, I think on that, consistency is massively important. There's 2 points you made there which I thought were really good. Like, consistency is hugely important for the very reason that people only remember the time that you forget. So the minute you're inconsistent, people go, but you didn't say that, or you didn't do that. And so consistency of care is hugely important. The other thing that I often tell leaders when I'm doing my exec coaching with leaders is to stop coming to the table with solutions and start really asking questions. The most powerful conversations come from questions. And like you were saying, the questions prompt curiosity. The right question will get you the answers that you need, and indeed will give the person who's answering the questions the power to solve the puzzle for themselves. I'm always reminded of a wonderful story of Mike Asbrahoff, who was the commander in the U.S. Navy, who took control of, I think it was the USS Benfold. It's the worst performing ship in the Navy, and he was given the command of the ship. And on his first day, they basically literally, you've got to turn the ship around. And on his first day, he basically went around and asked 2 questions. What's your name and what do you do? And what is one decision that you could take now that would make your job better, make this ship better? And he went and asked everybody on the ship. So 2, possibly 3 if you want to, but 2 real questions. And ultimately that ship became the Top Gun equivalent in the American Navy, simply by asking questions, but asking almost questions that care. Like, what decision could you take now that would power you up to make a difference to the job that you're doing on the ship and make it better? And it was everything from we buy rubber nuts instead of metal nuts because they don't rust as quickly. Okay, go and do it. And he made everyone just go and do what they said. And I just think that's such a fantastic leadership style.
Well, thank you for sharing this example, Scott, because we relate to stories, and this is such a great story. In fact, and it's so simple, and it's so really, if you don't know something, ask the question. Yeah. But really, that is great to hear and share and empower people to do things, to take initiative. Don't tell them how to do it. Just give them provide a context, the environment. And I guess it just and look, how much more pleasant is your role as a leader when you do these things? It just becomes a joy, because rather than just a hardship of control, it's trying to do everything yourself. It's not sustainable. When you actually get others to do it and give this to do it, it just makes such a difference. And thank you really to share that, because that can resonate and relate. So if you have a problem, even if it's the worst situation, there you go. These are 2 questions you can immediately implement and ask them and give them the freedom, empower them to do that.
And on your point on giving people direction, one of the most underused business tools I've ever heard of is the power of intent. Mm-hmm. And by simply saying to people, here's what I expect to happen. You don't have to tell them how to do it. So this is what I would like to see. This is what I want to happen. This is what we need to achieve. Mm-hmm. And then I always say to people, state intent, give people the time, space, and tools, fire them up and get out the way. Right? Light the spark and get out the way, and let people do it. And what you find is, it's a little bit like if you say I'm going to buy a new car, and you say I'm going to buy a red BMW, and you get in your car and you drive down the road, every car you see always happens to be a red BMW. You're like, oh, I've just seen another one. Oh, I've seen another one. And God, there's so many of them. I've never noticed them before. The reality is because what's happening is, you stated your intent and your brain is looking for alignment. And as organizations that are effectively, a bunch of humans, if you're really clear on what intent looks like, then your teams will arrange around that intent. They'll create alignment for what you need to do to happen. And all you need to do is ask the right questions, give them the time, space, and tools. And every team I've ever run, I've pretty much employed that approach. And I'm always brilliantly, pleasantly amazed at the level of incredible work, because I've always grown every business that I've worked in. And I've always, I've still got, I had a wonderful Instagram message the other day from someone who used to work with me in my team probably 10 years ago, and she still calls me boss, which is we always have a bit of a joke about it. But I think when you really power up people to do great stuff, and I look at people who were in my teams years ago, and they're in global roles, they're doing so brilliantly, and then I look at the way that they lead their teams, and they lead their teams in pretty much the same way. So I think if you can leave a lasting legacy in that way, how to let your teams care for their teams, then you're doing the right thing in the long term.
Love it. It's really that, and I'm convinced the reason why we started with See the Leaders Who Care is we felt that the world is a living organism and has a lot of problems, of course, but it's perfect as it is. We can impact it positively, and we felt that the world needs more care in everything we do, more care in our families, more care in our healthcare, more care in education, more care for ourselves, to be able to do better work, to serve better, to really be more, to radiate more really valuable. And on that point, Scott, how do you care about yourself? What are the things that energizes you? What are the, because that's you're working with, of course, organizations. You got to have the energy and the passion and the continuosity, to deliver outstanding work, and I'm sure that takes energy, and of course, when you love it, it's not like a work. It is really a service, but and conviction. But of course, what are the things that help you? How do you take care?
I think it's a great point, because I think even if you absolutely love something and you're really passionate and love what you do, I mean, I know plenty of startup owners who are passionate about their business, but they work 150 hours a week or whatever. It's not sustainable. And what I'm also finding as I'm building, I'm working with lots of businesses about what the future of work looks like.
This is a very interesting future of work, guys. Listen to this. This is very, very interesting.
Oh, we'll cover more of this shortly. But one of the key things that I've noticed, and actually I'm pushing, is rather than physical and mental well-being being somewhere almost like a byproduct or somewhere low down the list of priorities, we're shifting it to the very top. Because obviously over lockdown, people have found a different rhythm. People have found time to do a run in the morning, or found time to sit and read a book. Hopefully the 2-hour commute that people often took, they've replaced that, although they often haven't, which I think is a shame, but they've sometimes replaced that with a walk, or they might have bought a dog and do a dog walk in the morning. So I really prioritize. I think that's really a priority. And for me, as we said earlier, I came back from the gym. I go to the gym 4 times a week at least, but always in the mornings, because for me it's the first thing that I can do to get me right and ready. Energizes my thinking, and also actually it's one of the places where I find I'm most creative, because I can go into the gym with something that I'm thinking about, and I get time to actually think about it while I'm there, and I come back and I can start writing things down. But I really love that routine, and it's really important. So I don't do anything before I've been to the gym. Generally, I don't do meetings or anything. I'm really fastidious about having downtime in the evenings. I don't work late into the evening and late into the night, because that's family time, and we always have dinner together as a family and talk about our day and stuff.
Having
it's
dinner
so
together
important.
As a family is so good.
It's so important. And I didn't always, because sometimes I was coming back from town, so I was I'd missed the dinner and missed bedtime, so I always want to be here for that. And then I listen to a lot of audiobooks and meditative podcasts, so just really simple things. But I really like, I prefer to listen to books than to read them now.
Same, me too. I'm more received from listening than
exactly
reading.
Just because I like listening to voices. I like listening to. I mean, I just read The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle's book, and actually I listened to it rather than read it. And the book itself is a kind of a conversation between him and some students. But actually, when you hear the conversation, it all makes a lot more sense. That he's explaining something. He's got such a hypnotic voice, and then there's a question coming. I mean, it's a brilliant listen. And then spending time. I don't work weekends, so I've got 2 daughters, so they do a lot of sports and parties and everything at weekend, and we do things as a family at the weekend. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I'm beyond the age now where I think drinking and smoking and stuff like that will do me any good, so I don't do any of that. And I eat regularly and track what I eat as well, so especially over lockdown, just because, for no other reason than just to keep a bit of discipline, because if I don't do that, then I don't particularly eat particularly well. So
well-nourished food is care. Well-nourished food is care for your body, and the body will repay you, especially when you do
absolutely, especially when you get it wrong. So and just very simple things. I like doing, and I speak to my friends and stay in touch with. I'm in a lot of networks. I like to get inspiration from lots of different people. So I listen to lots of different things and watch different things and one of the most interesting things is get perspectives that aren't your own. So find contrarian perspectives to what you believe and really listen to that. And you'll find, I always find that when I do that, it kind of either solidifies your argument or it might actually help you change your mind. But the more you can do that on different things, the more that I'm equipped to do my role.
I love what you just said. There's many great things, and thank you for sharing that, Scott. It's amazing, guys, for whoever is listening to know what are the things that give you energy, and when you're in a super low state, what can get you out of it in a pretty much instant or in a minute, hour or so, by doing something you love consciously. And I love all the recommendations. I love what you said about finding contrarian to your perspectives. It helps you grow because it challenges you, and it's also down to the beliefs you have. And I say, hey, I think should challenge everything we know and believe until we find the truth. And
so I think it's Maynard Keynes, who's an English economist. I think this is his quote, but he says, when new facts become available, I change my mind. Something like, somebody asked him, how do you hold your opinions? I say, I don't. When new information comes, I change my mind. And I think that's an interesting way to think about leadership. There are lots of things that we can have in a fixed mindset. I see it a lot. People say they care, they say they do this, they say, but actually they've got a very fixed mindset, and it's always about we're just going to do things how I like them. We're going to do things business as usual. We're going to do, it's like this. And the reality is, you've got to extend your thinking, extend your understanding, find the differences. Instead of trying to, we're programmed to find similarities in everything, right? So we can connect with things. It's always interesting when you find differences. What are the differences of opinions you might have with other people, or with people in your team, or with what's going on in the marketplace? Because in those things, you can either strengthen your own thinking and prove why it's right, and say, look, everyone else is doing this, but we're doing this because we think it's right, and that matters. Or you might find that actually what you're doing is not right, and your approach to leadership or your approach to how you're dealing with something could be done in a different way. And in which case, be vulnerable, be open, be transparent, have the conversation, say, look, I don't think I've got this right. What do you think? And that's the way to really make change happen.
Amazing. And Scott, what do you think moving to a point you raised earlier, the future of work? How does, when you close your eyes, how does the future of work looks like? So people can actually prepare for it and be more. I'm a great believer that luck is when preparation meets the opportunity. So I think, and I love what you said, the power of intent. If you anticipate something to happen, you act in the way and prepare for that to happen, it will happen. It's a lot of the things, it's non-materialistic, because we fulfill a vision, we dream of something, then it becomes a reality. So it's not something tangible in that sense. So it's more spiritual in that sense. And, just trying to get your perspective and see what do you think future work looks like?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I don't think anyone knows the truth. I mean, that is the truth, right? We can't predict the future. We can only deal with what's happening right now. So what I see now, and if now is an indication of the future, what's happening now is that the people are realizing that work used to be something we went to. We went to work rather than always stuff that we did, so an output or a productive thing. And now I think people are saying, well, actually work is going back to a verb. It's what we do. It's not where we need to go. It's what we do. And when you redefine something like that, then actually you redefine all the parameters that sit within it. So where do I deliver my best work? How am I most productive? Again, great leaders are asking these questions. How am I team? Because 12 months ago, people could say, I'm not allowing you to work anywhere other than the office. There's a desk for everyone. Everyone needs to be in every day because that's what works. There was no contrarian proof because nobody had ever done a massive experiment like we've just done. And of course, we've done this global experiment where everyone's had to work from home. And aside from the businesses that really impacted, hospitality and things like that, no banks have collapsed. No big media businesses have gone under. These businesses are still making money and still productive. So all of a sudden, you've got these, you've got the view, the old school view, you've got the contrarian view that now says, well, it can work. So somewhere in between is where the future of work lies. And instead of it being dictated to by companies, the power is moving into the hands of the employee. And even more so, that great talent that is everywhere. There is great talent in every market, in every city in the world, in every country. They are going to have their opportunity, and businesses are going to realize that the minute you stop thinking about how do I get somebody into my office, and the moment you start thinking about how do I build the most incredible output, how do I get the best work, then I think that the whole structure of how we work, how organizations have relationships with their employees, and the power that employees wield, and the talent, really great talent, is really great talent going to go and sit in an office? Think about it. Like when they could sit on the beach in the Bahamas and have and still create the work that they need to do. They're not. And the reality is, if you as a business say, well, you've got to come in, someone else will say, no, you don't. It's like, football clubs, and, when there's great talent, people will accommodate it. And I think people are going to be much more accommodating to a different style of working. And it presents challenge for businesses, because lots of businesses have got real estate and offices. And, but I think that we'll find, the pendulum swings from one way to another. We always go too far the other way. We always overcompensate. This always happens in society. What we don't want to do is swing back the other way. And I think in this case, everyone's mindset everyone's lives has enforced change means that we've created new brain networks, new neurons, new ways of, neuroplasticity means we have changed the way our brains work in the last 12 months, because which
is a great point to raise, guys. The fact that we have changed, because I hear a lot of beliefs that say you can't change if you're 40, 50, 60, 70. No, you can change at any moment of your life if you have the right lever. So this is my message to everyone. Yes, you can change, even if you are the most difficult person in the world, and you don't want to change anything. You can change if you really wanted to. It's more painful, of course. It's not like the children, they can adopt it so quickly. So you just need to allow the time. So you raised a very good point as kind of neuroplasticity, even though the brain may not be neuroplastic for, mid-age or late-age kind of individual, but it's still absolutely possible and doable. So I just, another great point that came out of this, I'm very excited about the future of work, in fact, because I think a lot of beliefs were put to the test and they did not make it. So we don't have to, we don't have to believe in things that are actually questionable, seriously questionable. And I think you're right. Not many businesses went under. And as such, in fact, some businesses are doing extremely well. Yes, there are businesses that struggle, but that's also an opportunity for them to improve.
Well, I think the businesses that win will go back to our principles of earlier. They are asking the questions, they are having the conversations, they are listening to what their employees want, and they are accommodating, because there's no one solution fits everybody, but they're accommodating what they can. They're going bottom up with a little bit of top down. They're going, right, let's shape it how you want it to be, and it will fall out in the right way. Those that are enforcing things and saying you need to come back into the office 5 days a week, and they're the ones that are going to be in trouble.
Amazing.
That's my prediction.
Absolutely, I believe in that, and I think people that missed being in the wanted to not to be in the office now, they may miss being in the office. So there's also the other side. People realize.
Yeah.
So I think in the future is absolutely the hybrid model, and allowing that flexibility. And there's a way and tools to do. You can do it for 15 minutes every day, kind of calls with your employees. This will gather up, these are ways that can be done. And
Exactly.
in fact, could be accountable. So if leaders don't know how, there's a lot of ways. So I believe this is an opportunity for leaders to grow, which actually brings me to a question from somebody that we both of us know and highly respect. Has been able to shoot a question at you, and it says, Scott, what is one new mindset or belief on leadership that you've acquired in the past 14 months? Why did you make the shift of perspective?
Oh, trust Stoyan to come with a fantastic question. Actually, do you know what's really interesting is I created, I guess it's the operating system for my business. I call it an operating system. I don't call what I do a business. I call it an operating system.
Yeah.
And the reason I call it that is because there's lots of different I can change it, and there's lots of different things that I can plug in. But the fundamental 3 words are always the same. I said I love the power of 3. It's unblock, unlock, unleash. And for a long time, I've been working with it and using it, and I hadn't actually applied it to my own business. I'd applied it to lots of businesses, and it had really worked. And I'm not always sure as to whether you can really stand by something until you've done it for yourself and you really feel the risk of it yourself, or the tension of it yourself. And so I decided to change my leadership philosophy and go, right, I'm going to experiment on myself. I'm going to be the guinea pig for my own philosophy, my own operating system. And I ran through all of the stuff that I do in business for my own business, and it was phenomenal. It was properly eye-opening, and it led me to make some really fundamental shifts in how I lead my own business, but do lead it, how I think about it, and actually I have another business that I co-founded, and how I integrate that more into my business. And part of it, I think, is having the real self-belief to stress test your own thinking, your own tools. And quite often we don't do enough of that. I call it learning, unlearning, and relearning. The stuff that we've learned, is it all, I've learned loads of stuff over my career, but of that, when I want to apply it to my business and I want to apply it to my clients' businesses, some of it won't work. What do I need to unlearn? And indeed, of that, what do I need to relearn? Where are the gaps? So what is not fit for purpose? What doesn't work? What do I need to relearn and recreate and redo? And going through that process of learning, unlearning, and relearning with my own operating system really helped me find the gaps in it, find areas that I wanted to relearn. Hence I'm talking about, the second book and how I want to have a more robust academic element to it. It helped me think about some of the client relationships that I had and who I really wanted to work with and who I didn't want to work with, some of the relationships I was having with some of the partners I was working with. It fundamentally shifted, how I led the business and transformed the business. And I managed to grow the business again this year, even through a pandemic, which for me, the day that they announced the lockdown here in the UK, I had my phone didn't stop ringing for all the wrong reasons, people cancelling work and everything else. And I sort of thought, what's going to happen, and just making that shift. So learning, unlearning, relearning, using it on my own business model, my own operating system, and doing all that to transform the business, to grow it, really helped me stress test and think through my product and my business. And I just think it's such a simple but powerful philosophy: learn, unlearn, and relearn.
Amazing. And maybe another advice that comes out of it, guys, whatever you do, implement it in your own business.
Absolutely.
To basically unblock that belief of, what was it? The dentist has bad teeth. No, the dentist has the best teeth. This is what I say, replaced by the new belief. Make sure that you do that and take care with what you do and being a living example. I think it's what you just explained, that you did implement it in your own business and it paid off in a big way. So
exactly,
that's a great message to everybody that do see what you're best at and implement it first in your own business, because often we forget while we're going serving others. And thank you so much for doing that. Scott, one last point here, that what excites you these days? You've done so much. What are the things that?
Oh, loads. I mean, doing stuff like this. I mean, I think when you run your own business, you've got to be even more visible. You've got to find the messages that you want to communicate, and you've got to find the ways to communicate them. One of the things that I love doing podcasts and spreading this message to people around the world. And I also still obviously get inspired by brilliant people, and I started my own show, which started just before the pandemic, but it was. For me, it was one of those ambitions that are really exciting. It's an opportunity for me to speak to people that I believe are creating the future in various fields. And so I set about creating that, and then pitched it, and then thankfully found a brilliant partner in Fora who have helped me make it into something great. And, I've had some people that I really, over the years, have found so inspirational. People like Rankin, the photographer, and Pip Jameson, who started at the Dots, which is a brilliant business. I've got June Sarpong, who's going to come and talk about the future of diversity. Just that, getting prepared for that every month, I find really, really exciting. And there's lots of things that I still do. I still take photos. I love photography. I take photographs, and I still mix music. So I used to be a DJ and producer, and there's lots of things. I just think keeping your mind open, and someone I worked with a long time ago has just done this incredible art installation. He's taken over Times Square and Piccadilly Circus, and I've been, just giving him advice on the very little advice that I can give, but mentoring him through that process and seeing people just achieve what is great for me is at the heart of the boom. And so that constantly excites me, seeing people deliver the impact that I believe that they can.
Lovely. Keep spreading that great work, Scott. And that's why of course, we are very selective of who we invite, and
I've seen the guests, they're amazing.
Thank you so much for really doing what you're doing and spreading, inspiring people, and to have that true mindset of care and serving others. Finally, just to finish, what is your vision really, and for a better future? What's the intent? What's your intent? What do you want to see?
It's a great question. When I'm working with businesses, actually, one of the first things I get them to do is what I call the boom state, which for me is the ultimate. What are we trying to achieve here? And I don't get them to do it by talking about anything else. They do have a big discussion, but we create a movie poster. And what's beautiful about that is it's very visual, and there's lots of different components to it. But what's even more beautiful about it is that often my clients will turn it into a proper poster and frame it and put it up in their business. So when I go in, I get to see it. So it's incredible. So I'm often thinking consciously, because you've got to think about this consciously, what would be an incredible future? What would be the boom state? And for me, I have a constant vision that I want to help deliver the impact that I know people can deliver and businesses can deliver by really stress testing my operating system. And I want my operating system of Unblock, Unlock, Unleash to power businesses, empower my clients, but also empower individuals. And I've set a cursory target of 1 million people. And I want to do that through a variety of different things. But what I really want is that I keep getting these stories back from people about how it's changed their life, how it's created the impact that they want to see, how they've transformed their lives or transformed what they're doing. And that for me is, I don't ask for, I'm not in this to be a billionaire or anything at all. I'm really interested in how people get the most out of this. And my early leadership experiences were always, the leaders I worked with were always wanting you to fulfill, or me to fulfill, the potential and ambition that they saw that I didn't always see. And now I get that. There's lots of people that I work with and who get in contact with me who I just think have got such incredible potential and impact to create. And I want them to make that happen. At least 1 million in the next 2 years.
Wow. Look, I think it's incredible even to do one, to be honest. Never mind two, never mind. I think to 1 million. I don't know these numbers, I think it's just like, but it's absolutely great what you're doing, and to have that ambition and anticipation to help so many, 1 million people to unlock and unleash their potential, to live the passionate lives they are dreaming. It is really a great service to the world, a great service to really everyone, making a more caring and better world. Thank you, Scott. And if people want to get in touch with you, you mentioned you're doing a lot of work for businesses, for individuals, leaders. What is the best way for interested parties to get in touch with you?
Yeah, if you go to my website, it's www.unleashtheboom.com, all one word. You can contact me on there directly. You can sign up for my monthly newsletter. There are some free masterclasses and some tools and kits and things in there that will help you start unleashing your own boom. And I'm also on LinkedIn and social media as Scott the Boom on Instagram and Twitter. I don't really use Twitter or Facebook, to be honest, but I'm on Instagram quite a bit, so people can get in touch with me on there.
Great. Well, thank you so much for for joining us today, Scott, and spread and positivity and continue making an impact. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thanks, Marian. Thanks, team. Thank you, everyone who's been watching.
Pleasure.